This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm so excited to be speaking with Daisy Ridley about Magpie. How are you, Daisy?
I'm very well, thanks. How you doing?
Good, good. I had the chance to see this film on my last day at South by Southwest back in March, so it's really
Oh.
exciting to know that it's coming out in the world. I'm curious what your involvement was in this original idea.
So the original idea came from me. It was different. It was a different seed than that grew into the flower of Magpie. The original idea was actually um, what would it feel like to be an actress who is doing a film who does not have too much stability and who is really loves the person playing their child and sort of tries to infiltrate the family because it's stable. So that was a very original idea, which I took to Tom, and he started working on that. And a couple of weeks into writing, he just said, I feel really much more drawn to the woman at home, who's the mother of the little girl, this little girl that gets to go to set and call someone else mummy, and what is that dynamic? And the woman at home, what is it like for her? And then, of course, with Magpie, the layers of being in an unhappy marriage and trying to find her way back into the workspace and finding that difficult and feeling squished by her partner. What is the sum total of that?
Interesting to hear about that trajectory because I feel like the daughter, Matilda is the one character who doesn't really do anything wrong in the film and
Yeah.
is pretty innocent. And so I'm intrigued by how that was the start of it, and then she's sort of very pure.
I mean, it's funny because having heard other people try to cast children and how difficult it is, we came in thinking, oh, are we going to be able to do this? And Hibber was one of the first kids we saw. And don't get me wrong, the other kids were amazing, but we really needed the sweet spot of young enough because she's a child. But with Hibber, we also got a little girl who is so intelligent, emotionally. I mean, she's intelligent in the world, but also emotionally intelligent. She understood as we were going what was going on. And of course, she didn't know what was going on bar her scenes. But there was a day she turned to me and goes, Ben is not the hero of this story. And I remember thinking, you're six. You're six. This is crazy. But she is the light of Annette's life. Um, and she certainly in playing in it too, Hibber was so integral to holding on to the strength that Annette is battered and bruised by what's going on. But and Lucas, the baby, but really Matilda, her little girl, who they have this beautiful bond that I built with Hibber too. That was such a motivator for Annette not being broken by what was going on around her because she refuses to be because her child is the most important thing in her life.
It's also obviously casting Ben. I'm sure it was a challenging process because you want someone who, again, can be appealing in some ways, but also be the most despicable model for what a spouse could be in the world.
Well, it's interesting actually because Tom has been friends with Shaz for years, and he said we were sort of going through who we might have, and we knew it needed to be someone that would have all of the charm and all of the understanding as to why Annette fell in love with him and why Alicia might fall in love with him, but then has that darkness within them to for that to change, and when it changes for it to be quite frightening. And it was amazing because Tom had sent Shaz the script and Shaz called him a couple hours later and was like, I'm in. And he was so game to play it. And what he brought was so multifaceted because he is someone that is in many ways despicable, but also Shaz humanized him in a way that Ben doesn't mean to be the way he is in many ways. He's not trying to be um he's not trying to look at other women and he's not trying to escape his life. It's just something that's sort of happening. So for Shaz to embody all of that is really an amazing job.
That as somebody who had an infant at home after being at a film festival for 10 days, I did not feel great after coming out of this movie. Felt like,
Right.
I hope I'm not that, I'm sure I'm not that bad, but, I should probably go home and spend some time there.
Right.
So you're obviously a little bit more in the spotlight just as a person than Annette.
Mm.
What were you able to relate to about this character?
I'm in an incredibly happy marriage, which is hilarious because the two of us have made this film. But I have seen enough relationships that are uncomfortable that have moved incrementally. So they start as one thing. And Tom and I have always talked about people that move the goalposts. So a relationship begins and you love that your partner talks loads. And then maybe 6 months later, you're talking a lot. And those changes that we are probably all guilty of in some ways, I've seen enough of that to know how deeply uncomfortable it is, particularly for the people witnessing, because where are the lines between other people getting involved and when there's kids involved? And so in that way, I really related to Annette and Kate, who we made this with, produced this with. She has 3 children, so she was incredibly helpful in terms of the maternal side of things, because I don't know what it is to have children, but certainly speaking to enough people, things can be boring and things can be difficult and things can be great, but it's so multi-layered that I was able to also lean on other people to inform what I was doing.
There are a few scenes I don't want to talk about for people who haven't seen the film, but the one that's really sticking with me that I can talk about is when she encounters somebody she knows, in the park who's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you left, Ben." And
Yeah.
just that, like, to me, that's our sort of turning point in the film because it's like she's like, "No, I'm still with him," but it's a harsh realization for anybody
Yeah.
who's still like, this could work out,
Yeah.
and just very interesting moment in my mind.
Well, it's funny because I cut all my hair off a few years ago. So I had the comment, God, you're so brave. And I remember thinking, what? So that was something that was so Pippa, who plays Esther, did with such brilliant timing. But I think really that for me in Annette's journey is the lowest point before things change. And I think there is a level of, in the first half of the film, Annette can tell herself that no one else knows how bad it is because she is super isolated. So how would anyone else know? And she's doing a really good job of not airing any dirty linen in public. But that moment is so shameful because it's the moment that she realizes people are talking about her, people are talking about her relationship, and she can't run anymore from the reality of that. So the scene is brilliantly uncomfortable and is the driving factor for the rest of the film. And Pippa was so brilliant because Pippa, who plays Esther, and Alistair, who plays Richard, we needed 2 people. They're only in one scene each, but we needed 2 people that really help illustrate what Annette used to be and how she's perceived by the world around her. And they were just, I mean, casting wise, just across the board, amazing. But that park scene really needed to have that. Oh, and I know I've done it. So many people I know have done it. Go, oh my God, it's so great that you're not together anymore. And they go, we are. And you think, oh, how has this happened? That and clawing back the words you've already said.
It's also different because the scene is lit, which I feel like most of the film is very dark, when she's home, and it feels very, isolated, that she's just inside and very much trapped.
Yeah, and I think probably also because she's inside the house so much, you're right, that is it the first time we really see her outside? Yeah.
Well,
And
early on with the
it's
interview,
harsh.
the meeting, but yeah.
Yeah, it's harsh daylight and she sort of can't shy away from it and there's no shading. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Mm.
Well, there are some really great surprises in the film that I love for audiences to discover themselves. But obviously, I feel like the filmmaking process and shooting has to be very meticulous to make sure that you're shooting scenes in the way that they need to be seen. How much was that on your mind throughout the process?
So we actually had a sticky note board. So the things that we were watching, the things that the audience didn't know that we knew, the things that we knew, whichever one I've said, the other one. So we knew how we wanted to capture it, and we also didn't want to cheat, which is something that will make sense. You've seen the movie. For anyone after having seen the movie, that comment will make sense. Everything had to be correct, time-wise and situation-wise. Even with the background. This is all going to sound very cryptic, but I'm hoping you get it. Even with the background of what you're witnessing, matches the right thing. That's a hilarious answer. But yes, we were very, and also that comes down to an incredible script supervisor, Non, who had to be so on the ball and so keep us on track to make sure that we were ticking all those boxes.
What was the experience like of seeing it with an audience?
Amazing. Oh my God, we were so nervous before South by, but that audience was unbelievable. And there's something really wonderful as the laughs sort of increase, because at the beginning, the butch line from Ben, you sort of hear a titter, and it's like you can feel people looking to their neighbor thinking, is it okay to laugh? Because it's really uncomfortable. Is it okay to laugh? And then as that builds, and particularly with an American audience, amazingly vocal, it was so great. And Shaz hadn't seen the film till we premiered it at South by. So he was getting booed and he was loving it. It was really it's been amazing. And then we heard the last bit of an audience seeing it the other day, which was brilliant. And also the conversations around it and the responses and the questions from the audiences have really been even beyond what we could have hoped.
That a few years ago I was at Sundance and I started my experience with Sometimes I Think About Dying, which is, a more pleasant film in some ways. But how do you feel about, having these films launch at festivals? Does that sort of shape the journey in a different way?
I mean, Sundance was the first time I ever went to a festival properly. And I remember thinking, this is amazing. I think Sundance and South by, the festivals I've gone to, have been amazing audiences. People that really love films and often don't know what they're getting because, of course, you're launching often without a trailer and pictures and everything. So both of those experiences have been amazing, really receptive audiences, really great conversations, and it feels very intimate and very safe in a way. You're in a yeah, I think safe is the best way to describe it. You're in an environment that sort of is wonderful for the people that have made the films.
I also know you have a lot of popularity from Star Wars, and I feel like there are people who probably just seek out whatever projects you do. What advice would you have for people discovering Magpie thinking they're getting something that might be like Star Wars?
Well, we actually went to a Q&A yesterday, a Collider screening, and people had traveled from Oregon. I thought, oh my God. I think whichever way one might approach the film, thank you for watching. It's certainly not a Star Wars movie, but I would hope that people would be, I mean, none of the other things I've made have felt like that. I would hope that each thing I've done really has its own DNA and its own personality. And I feel like, art connects us and art makes us laugh and makes us cry and makes us ask questions. So for anyone that might be finding their way to it, I hope you enjoy it. And I really hope it provokes a conversation between you and your friends or your family or whoever you're watching it with.
What is the quality you look for most in a project that attracts you?
I think I would usually say the script, because honestly, if that's not there, I mean, what is? And I have a real particular, there are things that I have read the script of and I'm not crazy about, and I've watched the film and thought, oh my God, what they did was amazing. But I know I have a very particular sense of what I like and what I don't, or what I'm drawn to and what I'm not, I should say. So the script first and foremost, and then on top of that, is the director going to push me beyond where I've been pushed before? Am I hopefully going to do a better job on the next film than I did on the previous one? But I've been really, really lucky with the crews and the casts I've worked with, and feel like I've really got to explore so many different worlds.
This is Awards Buzz, so we're always trying to talk about projects and performances that are awards worthy. Have you seen anything recently that you would qualify that way?
Unfortunately, because we've been on the road for this, there is so much we haven't seen yet. But the things on my list are Anora, Amelia Perez, The Substance. Those are the top three that I'm really looking forward to seeing. And then Smile 2 and Joker 2, the big, also love that. But those top three are the ones I'm really looking forward to.
Great choices.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can talk about that's coming up for you?
We Buried the Dead is a film I made in Australia earlier this year. We are in the process of waiting for potential hopeful festival things. It's a zombie film, but it's really, to my mind, I play Ava in it, a story about a woman who is looking for answers, and she doesn't know what she's going to find at the end of the journey. But what she does find, it might give her answers, it might not, and how one copes if the answers you're seeking aren't where you thought they might be.
I like that. Well, I look forward to seeing that. Thank you so much for your time, Daisy.
Thank you.